This episode of the Aaron Cohen Show is brought to you by the Cherry's Deep Concealment Holster. Same holster I trained Keanu on for the John Wick franchise. This thing runs below the waistband. It's never going to fall off you. Runs BWB. Lightning fast draw with just a little bit of training and zero digging into your gut. Finally, carry concealed with comfort. Go to cherriescounterterror.com. Grab yourself one of these bad boys. There's a bit of a lead time, but trust me, they're worth it. Let's get into it. So in the Middle East, whoever offers the first ceasefire screams weakness. Kacha ze, like we say in Hebrew. Ze hasafa shel hamizrach hatichon. That's the language of the Middle East. And that's the rule of survival in this region. But tonight, I'm asking a critical question. Is the new ceasefire deal a tactical pause? Or is it a deadly gamble? In Israel, under Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, has agreed to a U.S. brokered ceasefire with Hezbollah. The deal pauses hostilities for 60 days and requires both Israeli forces and Hezbollah terrorists to withdraw from southern Lebanon. And on paper, it looks risky. Hezbollah, backed by Iran, has a history of using ceasefires, like all terror groups, to regroup and rearm. But here's the difference. This deal is being handled by Bibi, a Matkal veteran and a counterterrorism expert, and somebody who knows the terrain. This isn't a guy who makes weak decisions. And as he said himself, with full understanding with the United States, we maintain complete military freedom of action. And if Hezbollah violates the agreement and tries to rearm itself, we will attack. And if tunnels get dug, or rockets get launched, or brings in missiles, we will attack. This isn't a retreat, in my opinion. This is calculated. But Biden's involvement in brokering the deal raises important questions and red flags for me. Is the U.S. helping Israel, or is it setting them up for a disaster? And I'm going to break down the deal, Netanyahu's strategy, and the risk that Israel faces in trusting both Hezbollah, a terrorist group, and Biden, who has not served Israel in good faith throughout this campaign. First, let's start by understanding the key points of the ceasefire agreement. It's brokered by the United States. The deal pauses all hostilities for 60 days. Both Israel Defense Forces and Hezbollah terrorist militants must withdraw from southern Lebanon, creating a buffer zone. This isn't the first time this has happened. This happened again. This also happened 25 years ago. But here's the critical detail. Israel retains full military freedom of action. And that means if Hezbollah violates the agreement in any way, whether it's smuggling weapons, digging tunnels, launching rockets, Netanyahu has promised immediate and overwhelming retaliation. The deal is a tactical pause. I don't believe this is a concession. And it gives Israel room to maneuver while sending a message to Hezbollah. If you break the rules, you're going to pay the price. But let's not forget, Hezbollah is a terror group with a long history of exploiting ceasefires. It's no different than Hamas. So why make the deal now? The answer, in my opinion, lies in Bibi's leadership. And let's talk about why Netanyahu is uniquely qualified to navigate this situation. This isn't just another politician. We're talking about a Seret Matkal officer. This is Israel's top unit. Tier 1 unit. Netanyahu has spent his life making these decisions, leading counterterrorism operations in his unit, and defending Israel on the world stage for 30 years. And when Netanyahu says Israel will attack if Hezbollah violates the deal, I promise you this is not an empty threat. He means business. He's lived through these scenarios, and he knows that the Middle East, that strength is the only language that these terrorist Islamists understand. And this deal isn't about weakness. It's about setting the stage for a decisive and aggressive response if Hezbollah steps out of line. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. The U.S.'s role in brokering the deal. President on his way out, Biden, has a history of pressuring Israel into making very deadly compromises, and his actions during the Gaza conflict earlier this year has raised serious concerns in my mind. Biden delayed Israeli operations by threatening to withhold weapon shipments. Delay costs lives, and in my opinion, including hostages like Goldberg Hirsch who were murdered. And this time, Biden's involvement in the Hezbollah ceasefire raises new questions. Is Biden truly supporting Israel, or are they pressuring Netanyahu into a deal that could backfire? To be clear, Netanyahu's leadership ensures that Israel isn't handcuffed by this agreement, but the perception of U.S. pressure could embolden Hezbollah and their Iranian backers. It sends the wrong message that Israel's actions are being dictated by Washington. And in the Middle East, that kind of message is deadly. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Any deal with Hezbollah carries significant deadly risks. This is an Iranian-backed terrorist organization that thrives on lies. Ceasefires have always been an opportunity for them to regroup, rearm, and rebuild their infrastructure. That's all terrorists do. They disappear into the detritus, and they come back bigger, badder, and more evil than ever. But this time, Netanyahu's terms are crystal clear. Israel will retaliate if there is one single violation. Immediate action. For me, the bigger question is whether Hezbollah and Iran are testing the waters, seeing how far they can push Israel under the shadow of a U.S. brokered deal. Netanyahu's warning sends a very strong message, but the risks of miscalculation still remain. And Hezbollah might see this as an opportunity to start pushing those boundaries, to start pawing that bear, especially if they perceive U.S. involvement as a sign of weakness, which they have for the last year. Biden has been an absolute joke. But I want to say this. This deal isn't just about the northern border. I'm looking at a broader picture here. It's about the broader balance of power in the region. And by de-escalating with Hezbollah, Israel can now shift its focus to a larger threat, in my opinion, which is Iran. And Iran's growing influence in Syria and Lebanon, with Iran's nuclear ambition, still poses the largest existential threat to Israel. And Netanyahu knows this. He's not stupid. And that's why the ceasefire, in my opinion, isn't exactly a retreat. This is a tactical decision designed to buy time and resources for the bigger fight. Israel has been at work nonstop. And at the same time, the deal sends a warning to Iran and its proxies. Netanyahu has drawn a clear line. Any violation is going to be met with that sword of David. And that deterrence is critical for maintaining stability, not just for Israel, but for the entire region. So let me close with this. Ceasefires in the Middle East are always a gamble, but this isn't a gamble made out of weakness. Again, in my opinion, it's a calculated move by one of Israel's strongest leaders ever, the Churchill of democracy in the Middle East. And Netanyahu, a special operations veteran, has ensured that this deal protects Israel's military freedom of action, and his message is very clear. But I'm going to say this, the stakes remain high. And with U.S. involvement, the perception of pressure could undermine Israel's position, fan those flames for Iran, and continue to escalate the region, because in the Middle East, strength is survival. And that's where I'm at with this. If you found this episode insightful, do me a favor, share it, and subscribe to the show. I'm here to bring you the truth about Israel's fight for survival. If you're a fan of my work and you're a fan of the show all around, do me a favor, grab yourself a mini sponsorship package. Hit the link in the description down below. They start at about $25. Also, this episode of The Aaron Cohen Show, sponsored by the Cherry's Deep Concealment Holster. Same holster I trained Keanu on for the John Wick franchise. Runs below the waistband. This thing is never going to fall off you. Go to cherryscounterterror.com. Bit of a lead time. Trust me, they're worth it. Grab one of these bad boys. More to come on this topic. I'm Aaron Cohen. You're watching The Aaron Cohen Show. Stand by. I'll be back soon.